good.
Okay, sounds good to me. Can you flip the screen on so I can see what's going on?
Is this recording?
No.
Yeah.
It's recording. Okay. It's really dark. There we go. You got to open up the iris. Because it's on set, so when you set the lights, you got to like open the iris. Okay. Welcome to the Peak News. I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman. Happy Thursday to you. It's Thursday, right? It's the end of our week here on the Peak. And I love getting to this day just because I tend to be freer on this day. Sometimes it's our media day. Certainly at the end of the week, after doing a whole week's worth of programs, it's exciting, to be here. This is our second week back on the air, season 2. I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman. Watching out over things in this region and wanting to report everything to you. I wish we had unlimited time and unlimited budget and we could just talk about everything here, and not just me. I could bring on people and we could talk all day, and that's a vision, and we'll have that one day. Hundreds and hundreds, thousands of you reporting on our region and being watchmen and watchwomen over our area, because that's what we need. That's what we need. We need people who will engage. We need people who care enough to sacrifice, and we do have a level of those, but it's less and less and less. It seems that saying the quiet stuff out loud, which is our motto, is getting rarer and rarer. Engagement is getting rarer and rarer. People are, they're disheartened, and I understand that. They don't think they can make a difference. I understand that. I get all of that. But the thing is you're alive, living, and breathing. So what are you going to do? Are you going to check out? Are you going to sit back? Are you going to just wait to be out of here? If that's your theology, we're just getting out of here. We're just going to leave. We're leaving the earth anyway, so let it burn, let it mess up. I can't live like that. I can't. I know theologically, I believe that in the end, all of this stuff that we're doing is going to just burn up. It's going to go away. There's going to be a new heaven and a new earth, and in a way, it amounts to nothing. None of these efforts amount to nothing, except we were put here on this earth. For some reason, if you believe it's God, as I do, to have a purpose and to do something. And we're supposed to be stewarding. We're supposed to be taking care of things. We're supposed to be, making the world a better place. I think pretty much almost every religion, purports to believe that. How they go about it is as varied as the individual. What I want to talk about today, as we finish up this Thursday, and I am the guest today, because last week I had Jim Miller on. I love having Jim. We're going to be doing more with Jim Miller, just a guy. But I was sort of his straight man and setting him up, and he was getting a rant. And when today happened and we were looking at scheduling guests and it didn't quite come together and work out, I take that as, Chaim, this is your hour. What do you want to talk about? And I realize that there's a bunch of stuff I want to talk about, maybe rant about, maybe, be encouraging, maybe be a little dark, I don't know. I don't know where this is going exactly. I have a script in front of me, I have ideas. But I want to talk to you, yes you, because I think that most people, I was saying this to my children the other day. I said, there's a point that you get to where you sort of know something's true. Like you get a sense, things aren't quite right in this world, and something's going wrong, and it, as they say, it doesn't pass the smell test, or that dog don't hunt, or whatever one of colloquial expressions you want to use. You know that there's something wrong, and you really know it, but yet there's doubt, and you don't know. Can I speak up about it? Is it true? I mean, it's so easy to get, if you know the phrase, frog potted right now. I mean, we're heading in these seemingly horrible directions, but peace and prosperity, and the news is all great, and the economy is up, even inflation is not as bad as you think, even though the money's flying out of your pocket. We know it's right, but just things around us make us doubt. And then somewhere down the line, maybe you get to the reality and you say, I knew it. I knew it all along. And yet in that gap between when you knew it and when you knew it, we're scared to speak up, because what if we're wrong? What if we're crazy? What if it's just a conspiracy theory? What are people going to say? Maybe I'll get fired. Maybe I'll get criticized. Maybe somebody will punch me in the nose. I don't know. But there becomes a point where you just have to hit a critical mass and go, I don't know if I'm seeing this right, and I hope I'm wrong. Let me say, I hope I'm wrong about this, but I really think this is what's going on in the world. And that's when we need to say the quiet stuff out loud. And that's what the Peak is about, and that's what this program is about. I'm going to be, in different segments, talking about the media. Man, have you been, seen like the debates and everything else? And it's so obvious right now that the media isn't journalistic and what the media is supposed to be. I'm going to talk about faith. We had a whole program on faith yesterday. I'm going to touch on that because it seems that the church is checking out. The new stats out from George Barna that 50% of Christians in this country are not going to vote. Not going to vote. And then, of course, politics. It's a big issue now in the election, saying some things about that, especially on the local level, what I'm seeing, because I'm involved as a journalist, and I put out a voter guide, and I'm the kind of guy who asks questions, and I know the political people, and I'm looking around. And, I'm going to share these things. And maybe they're my opinion. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe it is theory. Maybe it's not. Maybe it is an actual conspiracy. Maybe there is a problem. But you know what the watchman is supposed to do? The watchmen, when they see trouble on the horizon, maybe they don't see it so clear, but they see it on the horizon, they're supposed to say something to warn the people. And that's why I'm here. And maybe I'll get stuff right. Maybe I'll confirm things that you've been already thinking. I get that a lot. People go, you know what? I thought that's what happened. I go, yeah, that's what's happening. And then we'll be finishing up with what happens when we are silent, and of course the Peak Rants with Jim Miller. So why do we need to speak up? Well, if you won't, for such a time as this, who will? And what will happen if we don't? I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman. You're listening to The Peak on AM 1460 and FM 101.1. The Answer. Listen to our sponsors. Patronize our sponsors. They're bringing this show to you. We'll be right back.
Checking to see how our radiant heat is around here. Making sure it's okay.
We don't get a sprinkler.
Yep.
No sprinklers going off.
I just don't want it melting my camera. Or your camera.
It's not that.
Yeah, it's good. I used these type of lights in college, but it's been a while.
Total Lights, man, they'll be forever.
Yeah, I noticed Made in America there.
I've had that light kit since
It's not looking bad, buddy.
97.
Okay. Hey, it's same age as me then. That's not looking too bad with the soft bounce there.
Yeah. I know, we
It's
could
got
work it more. I could get a second one, but
It's got
I
sort
brought
of
the
warm
iris up.
feel.
I opened the iris up. So,
Okay.
Hey everybody, we got one viewer on Facebook. I guess I should promote Facebook.
And I'm hitting the AC on in case that starts heating the room up.
It's been so cold, and today's the first day the office is warm, and now it's.
Well, it's just because we don't have more of those lights in the offices. That would solve all of our problems.
Well, that's why I was saying that ice cream cake. Brooke has been storing it in my in my office all week.
Yeah,
That's why it was so hard. Thank you.
Yep.
Oh, and I'll need a timing on the ramp. I'll need a timing on the ramp. Jim's Ram. Welcome back to the Peak News. I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman. You're listening to AM 1460 and FM 101.1, The Answer. Conservative news talk here across the Pikes Peak region. And we are the Peak. We are the local, hyper-local, but local. Everybody else is national, great national hosts here on Salem. But I'm honored to, right in the middle, right between Sebastian Gorka and Larry Elder, you get Chaim Goldman. And I'm local. And here's the thing. I want it to be more come down here, be part of what we're doing, be a citizen journalist, a tech, an intern, a guest, a sponsor. Love our sponsors, could use more sponsors, pay the bills around here, and expand our vision. So if you'd like to, say the quiet stuff out loud and be part of this platform, this wonderful platform that we have here on Salem, broadcasting from South Denver, south of Pueblo, up into the mountains, across the Front Range. Go on the peak.news, find out more about us, fill out one of our contact forms, and we will be contacting you. So, dirty laundry. Yes, we're going to do some dirty laundry on the media in this segment. The media is my sphere, my mountain, my profession. Been in it basically my whole life. I have a degree in broadcasting and film. And so I've been doing this for quite a while, and I'm a questioner, and I'm a Messianic Jew, means I'm a Jew who believes in Jesus. So, if you don't think I question everything, and I'm willing to consider, where is the truth? I mean, that's basically my whole life. Not to say that I'm not human and I don't get caught up in things. I do. Sometimes I'm wrong. There's that phrase, yes, I was wrong. Are you ever wrong? Yes, I was wrong once. I thought I was wrong, but I was mistaken. That's a great, I love that turn of phrase. But when you're looking at things, where is the truth? What is truth? And what we're finding, when we look toward the media, journalism, the ones who are supposed to be the watchmen, the ones who are supposed to bring us news, they're not exactly doing their job. How did we lose journalism in America? Well, this is how I see it. Somewhere back in the mid-1800s, we have something called yellow journalism. It's not like it hadn't been around, but it really was popularized between Pulitzer and Hearst, get my tongue back right now, competing newspaper franchises. And so they started putting out news that was sensational in order to get eyeballs, to make more profits. And at that point, when the business department of the newspaper has a dominant influence over the editorial side, you're already heading into the wrong place. But then, because then what happens is, more and more, the people who are paying the bills, and we have a firewall here, the people who pay the bills, we love them, they're friends, they believe in the show, they can suggest, just like you, what we report on, but what we report on and how we report on it, no, not influenced by those who are our sponsors here. That has to be our best attempt at journalism. So when the businesses started understanding, they have more and more influence, they can get a little here, maybe that can get played up, maybe that story can get quieted down. Well, then people started realizing, well, what happens if we took over the businesses, right, that have the money and the influence, and bring that forward 150 years, and we have right now basically bought and paid for media, and those who have now taken over the businesses have an agenda, a political agenda, a social agenda, maybe even something more nefarious, maybe whole world domination. I mean, there's certainly people out there. When you concentrate power in one place, this is why we're supposed to have a separation of powers, and it's so dangerous as that deteriorates here in this country with our what's supposed to be our constitutional republic, is that when you concentrate power in one place, bad people are going to kill their way to get that power. That's just the way it is. The biggest dog, the guy who's willing to be the most ruthless, is going to fight to get that concentration of power, and he's going to do whatever he needs to do to get it. He's going to lie and cheat and steal and kill, and unfortunately, if the people aren't bold enough to push back, at some point, these grievances, this tyranny that comes, we're supposed to rise up against it and replace it. But when it's so filled with power and so filled with money, and then it's manipulating, guess what? The media. So now they have a bead on telling you what to think and keeping information from you and telling you everything's fine. Don't look over here. There is no man behind the curtain. Everything's fine. Tucker Carlson, after he lost his job at Fox, which was amazing, how powerful it was. We still don't really know the full story. It's suspected he was talking too much about the pharmaceutical companies that pay most of the bills in media. But this is a quote from May 9th, 2023, just about less than a month after he was fired. He said, "At the most basic level, the news you consume is a lie of the stealthiest and most insidious kind. Facts have been withheld on purpose, along with proportion and perspective. You are being manipulated. What's it like to work in a system like that? The best you can hope for in the news business at this point is the freedom to tell the fullest truth that you can. But there are always limits. And you know that if you bump up against those limits often enough, you will be fired for it. That's not a guess, it's guaranteed. Every person who works in English language media understands that. The rule of what you can't say defines everything. It's filthy, really, and it's utterly corrupting. You can't have a free society if people aren't allowed to say what they think is true. Speech is the fundamental prerequisite for democracy. That's why it's enshrined in the first of our constitutional amendments. Amazingly, as of tonight, this was a year plus ago, there aren't many platforms left that allow free speech. Well, we do here. We say the quiet stuff out loud. That's what the peak is about. But this is what's really going on. And this is why there's a big rise in podcasting. In 2024, 505 million people worldwide will listen to podcasts, about 100 million in the US. It's grown into a $25 billion industry. And what are the most popular podcasts? Well, start with comedy, actually. They're the most popular. And then news, news, society and culture, true crime, sports, business, education, health and fitness, TV and film, religion and spirituality. Of course, that's what people care about. And when people are out there, unhindered by this economic force that's controlling the narrative, there's some really great truth out there, but there are like hundreds of thousands of podcasts. And so which ones and how do you get to the top and things like that. So this is why, we podcast the radio show, but we decided to go on the radio because we go on and we can broadcast all over the region, and then it becomes a podcast. But what do we do about the media? What are we supposed to do to try to get it back? Well, podcasting is good, alternative is good, but we've pretty much given up on thinking, and in some ways rightfully so. When something is billions of dollars and controlled by who knows who, big companies that own smaller companies that own smaller companies, these very big companies out there that control the media, really do. There's very few that own most of the media companies. And then they've decided, for whatever reason, and it doesn't seem to fit their bottom line. I mean, that becomes obvious when you see the types of things that these corporations would back, that it's like, well, your customers don't want that. Why are you doing that? So it's obviously, there's an ideology that's been infused, and there's not even a business model. There's not even a business sensibility. It's just some kind of ideology of a group of people that's controlling the company and controlling how they try to control the media. We're in trouble. And so what I would ask you to do is you have to speak up. You have to speak up locally. You have to try to get, we'll talk about faith in the next section, your pastor speaking up, because that influence, having left the United States in such a big way, of even pastors speaking up, is causing real problems now, which again we'll mention in the next segment about where the church is, where faith is in our country. But we need to say the quiet stuff out loud. And so I would encourage you, if you're living in the Pikes Peak region, to join us here at the Peak. Go to thepeak.news again for more information. We would love to have you join us. If you're still one of those people who's willing to speak up, if you're still one of those people who is tired of what's going on to the point where you realize that we have to get mad and we have to fight back, and we can't be complacent because then we're complicit, then I would invite you to be part of this wonderful media experiment that once we dial it in here, we hope to export around the United States. So go on thepeak.news, understand that what you're feeling about the media, what you saw on the debates with that debacle of these moderators that aren't moderate, that they're for a candidate and against another, that we have to push back against this, or you know what, folks? We're never going to get any kind of truthful information. And how are we supposed to run our lives and live free if that happens? Guess what? We can't. I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman. We say the quiet stuff out loud here. I hope you do too. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Peak News. I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman. You're listening to us on AM 1460 and FM 101.1, The Answer. And in our answer to the musical question, will be lied to you? No, we're here to tell you the truth. And in this segment, I want to talk about, where is the church? Well, the church, you would think, would be the place, well, where you would get answers, right? You would get truth. You would really be on fire, as they say, on fire. They were on fire. We're on fire to make a difference. And yet, what has happened over the years in the American church is we have what is commonly known as the frozen chosen. People who sit, listen, maybe absorb, do nothing, have no impact on society. And it's really an abdication of our responsibility, because if you do consider yourself to be a Christian in faith, you are the church. It's not a building. We all say that. It's not a building. But we see it as a building because we say, where were you? Why weren't you here? Whatever. We're supposed to be the church 24/7, out and about, everywhere. And yet, we've actually gotten to the point, and this is just, I knew this was going on. I didn't have the data for it, but a couple days ago, George Barna, Christian pollster, who specializes in that, in faith, and in people of faith in America and that culture, and he's been polling it for years, and he's been looking at the trends, and every time he comes out with a report, it's basically not good. And the one that came out a couple of days ago is horrendous. And we did basically a whole show on it yesterday with Pastor Mark Carrot from Church for All Nations, and that is 50% basically of those who consider themselves of faith in this country are not planning to vote in this election. With everything that's going on, with everything, literally or figuratively on fire, open borders, the economy, just whatever, on and on and on, not voting. Why? Lack of interest in politics and elections. 68%. There's also not liking major candidates. Don't think you can make a difference. Of course, thinking that elections are stolen. I get that. I get all that. I get it all. But here's the thing: you got to be salt and light in society. So it doesn't matter whether you think you're going to win. It doesn't matter. What is your purpose? Where are you supposed to be having an impact? What are you supposed to be doing with your life? So we look at the church, and I look at it as, I'm a Messianic Jew, so I'm a Jew who believes in Jesus. Again, start with crazy and different thinking and everything, and I come at things differently. But, after being in the church for like 30 years, I'm not, and I can't even get into that here, but theologically there's a lot of contradictions. I get that Jesus, Yeshua, is the Messiah. I don't get a lot of the church and its theology and what it's doing and why it's replaced biblical things but says it's following the Bible, and that leads to hypocrisy and just there's a lack of people thinking that there's truth, and then when they don't understand stuff, it gets us so mixed up. And then we live in a society where we're being told we should accept that men can be women, and and they can give birth and all of these other things, and especially our young people, like where do we find the truth? And because if you find the truth, it should cause you to be motivated to do something, to speak up, to say it. You got to say it. They say, like, if you had a cure, if you knew you had a cure for cancer, would you keep it to yourself? But we don't really preach the gospel anymore. We're not bold in that, because we must not be so confident in it anymore. It must be, a lot of ways to God, or whatever it is that you believe is true. It should motivate you to get out the door and do something. And Eric Metaxas, in his great book, Letter to the American Church, talks about a spiral of silence that happened in Nazi Germany, where every time someone decides to be silent, that the cost of speaking up is too great. Then the cost of speaking up gets more expensive, and pretty soon an entire nation is silent. And we're seeing that here when 50%, think how effectively the church has been played. If even voting, understanding, what's on the ballot, like the differences between the different candidates, the different parties, and even ballot initiatives, that you would just check out and do nothing. I'd have to say, folks, we got to stop complaining. We got to stop talking about stuff, gossiping about stuff, and expecting someone else to do the work, like your pastor, There's no Messiah to vote for or appoint in the election. It is a lesser of two evils, but one evil might be a lot more than the other. And we might just need to start knocking on doors, not for candidates, but to actually talk to our neighbors about the issues. We can't just talk to them once a year or try to influence them. We got to be out in the community. I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman, and we'll be right back talking about local politics with the election coming up. Welcome to the Peak News. I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman. You're listening to AM 1460 and FM 101.1, The Answer. And we're spending this Thursday, the final episode that we do each week is on Thursday. Dirk Hobbs and the Business Digest is on Fridays in the spot, 3 to 4 p.m. here on The Answer. We're talking about saying the quiet stuff out loud and sort of my assessment of what's going on in these different realms, nationally, locally, and suggesting that yes, I want to confirm. I like when I do that, when I share with people and they go, you know what, that's what I thought. Or, people that believe they're guided by, the Holy Spirit, say, that's what the Spirit's been showing me. And I go, okay, I don't want to give you something new. I like that. I like if I can confirm something that you knew was true, but you were just wondering. Because when we go around with that doubt, and right, that's the most effective thing, right? That's like, in the Garden of Eden, right? Did God really say? If you can just sow some doubt into what someone feels to be true, oh, it's so destructive. Because especially when the stakes are high, especially in a cancel culture where people are getting fired and criticized and losing things and the cost goes up, that spiral of silence I mentioned, when the cost goes up, and you can just get a little down, they go, maybe I shouldn't say anything. That becomes dangerous, and when we look around what's going on, look at what's happened again with 50% of those who say they're Christian are not planning to even vote. And that's it's a private, seemingly private ballot. No one's going to know, right? You're not going to get in trouble. You don't have to tell anybody, but still, just so checked out. And so I hope that I'm not sounding angry. I'm not here you learn on the radio. You should smile because you don't want to sound up. But I am angry. There's that if you haven't seen the movie Network, it was Best Picture, 1976, really amazing movie that was prophetic, and then we didn't heed it about basically even at that point it was recognized. David Mamet scripted, but it's that famous one is, I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore, is to listen to at least the monologues on there about the media and about how it's, become the profit that people follow and how business is controlling them. It was all we're talking almost 50 years ago this movie came out, and we didn't heed it. If anything, the media is so much more in control over people's lives and what they think, not think, than it was. But so, and there's one thing in there, it's like, first you got to get mad. Like, if you don't get upset enough to go, you know what, this is wrong. I don't like what's going on. I don't like what's going on in my neighborhood. I don't like what the media is doing. My church isn't speaking up, and the political realm here is a mess. And you get angry, and then angry at yourself. Why didn't I speak up? How did this happen on my watch? If you don't get that level of passion, then you probably won't do anything. And so say, calm down. No, don't calm down. Now, again, don't sin, be angry and do not sin. But get that fire burning in you so you can go out and do something. So I'm going to talk now about politics. Election season, the ballots are getting mailed out like tomorrow. They should arrive Monday. You can start voting. We have 3 weeks of voting, which I'm angry about. I think we should have 1 day of voting, maybe 2. If you're not there, get an absentee ballot. There's so much fraud that's open, with this whole thing of 3 weeks of voting and all the ballots getting mailed. And I'm not even going to go into that here. I'm gonna rant. This is Chaim Goldman. I'm gonna be Jim Miller, just a guy. I'm just a watchman, and I'm gonna say some things because everything isn't political. I get this thing, and I have family members that as you probably do that. I'm going to drink some water. Family members that don't agree with you, and every time you try to bring up anything, they go, I'm not going to talk politics with you. It's like it's not politics. Now it is politics because we end up voting on these things, like let's take something like abortion. Why is this political? It's obviously a social, moral issue. It's a human issue, but so are taxation, and so is business regulation, so is everything. But it becomes a political issue because we decide to let people legislate over it, make laws and laws and laws. Our legislature, open for 4 months a year, making hundreds and hundreds of new laws all the time, and then the bureaucracies pick them on it. But to just say, well, it's not political, let's not talk about it. It's only political because we've put it into the political realm. But what happens in the political realm? Social, moral issues, a society deciding how it should govern itself as a community, as a society, from speed limits to the death penalty. I mean, it's important. And so to check out of that is tough, but everything isn't political. Let me just say that. But are the parties relevant anymore? Looking at the stats here in El Paso County, because that's where we basically are, listening audiences, there's about 600,000 adults of voting age. About 80% are registered to vote. That's awesome. That's really, really awesome. Now, how many will actually vote? That's maybe not so awesome, but get out and vote for sure, and vote your values. But the Democratic Party in El Paso County, about 83,000, 143,000 Republican, 244,000 unaffiliated. That means basically half of the voters are unaffiliated. So do parties mean anything anymore? Well, in a way that they do, but here in El Paso County we have at least 2 Republican parties. They infamously are battling with each other, suing each other, who's the leader, everything. It's maddening, and so people just sort of check out. But still, generally in elections where it is a Republican or a Democrat, that's who people are going to vote for. You're going to show up and vote for the Republican or the Democrat. The other parties are, they take away votes. They can make elections really close. But, I don't, political parties, obviously, Mayor Yemi ran unaffiliated here and won. And so really it's about getting a message out, more than a political party. And if the political parties don't focus on being the political parties, like what they actually stand for, and defending that and not getting into other realms that aren't part of the official party platform, I think they're just shooting themselves in the foot, because it comes to a point and go, you're irrelevant. You're not, whenever you don't do what you say, like if we here, aren't trying to do journalism, if we start veering into advocacy, you're going to say, you're worthless. The Peak is worthless because you said it's doing something and it's not. I just believe that everybody, be who you are. You be you. Be who you are. Boldly proclaim who you are, and then be that, whether you're a person, a family, a city, an organization, whatever. But when you stop doing that, you make yourself irrelevant. And also in the state at this point, and amazingly it happened, went from a conservative state to, to a very blue state, or deep blue, people might even say, in a very short amount of time. There's a supermajority in the legislature. There's not much that can get done, and so people, try to run for office, but then they get into office, they go up to the state house if you're on the conservative side, Republican side, and you really can't get much done. You can't. And so where's our government when something like that is happening? And then they even, and we've heard this, we've told these stories here from Scott Bottoms and others who go to the legislature, they come up with rules to even silence the elected officials. You don't have any time to talk. You can't represent your constituency. They just use their power saying it's democracy, or, it's a republic, it's a form of democracy, it's a representative system, but they're not allowed to represent. And it doesn't matter, because when you have the money and you have the power and you can do stuff, and you're, you just do stuff, and you can try to convince yourself that it's for the good of the community, but it's, think about being on the other side. Like, think about if you were on the other side, how, our system is supposed to be set up. Yes, of course, the majority, in a voting situation, and, but there are other factors that could happen with good decisions. And when we don't have that, when people just, again, whether it's the media, whether it's, even we talked about faith, there's this thing now called Big Eva, which is like the evangelical industrial complex. I didn't even go into it, but I will now, like with the ballot initiatives, because we have these ballot initiatives here. I really expected that, especially this now that it's called Amendment 79, constitutional abortion up until birth, taxpayer funded, would remove the constitutional limit on taxpayer funding for abortion, would take away parental notification. Because of that, if this passes, needs 55% of the vote. I thought that with these billions of dollars of ministries, and hundreds of ministries and churches and everything here, that it would become a big issue. It would unify. There'd be tons of money on the table. They'd be fighting it. Nope, not happening. And I don't understand. I've been asking questions and going, hey, where's the money? Like, what? Well, it's a losing issue, and it's this and that. I just don't know anymore. I was going to mention this last segment regarding the church, but I got other things. Are we fighting in this realm, or are we not? Are we involved in politics, or are we checking out? Have we given up? And you need to understand, if you do that, especially on these ballot initiatives, they're really important ballot initiatives, but how they're written, if you don't read them, there might be a quadruple negative. you have no idea what it means, and then you go to the blue book, and which is supposed to explain the thing that was supposed to be written well, but it's not, and it ends up being partisan, because they're saying things like there's no fiscal impact if we have taxpayer-funded abortion. Well, taxpayer-funded anything, there's a fiscal impact. So I'm trying to say the quiet stuff out loud, just so that you'll say, you know what, Chaim, I get that too. I'm seeing that too. And you know what, I'm angry too. And I'm going to do something about it. And I'm going to get out there. And I'm going to say something. If it's this thing about the church, Pastor, the church needs to hear from you on these issues. We want to hear from you on these issues. Encourage your pastor to speak up. Go find the time to speak to your elected officials and say, hey, you promised us this, but you're not doing that. We're going to hold you to this, and know that there's an election coming up. And it's not just about the people who finance your campaign. You're supposed to be representing the people. And on the media side, we have to speak up, and we need to be willing to sort through stuff, but we've gotten so darn lazy, and we've lost hope, and we've disengaged. And folks, it's not going to get any better. As Dietrich Bonhoeffer famously said, silence in the face of evil is evil itself. God will not hold us guiltless. Not to speak is to speak. Not to act is to act. If you stay silent at this time, someone else is speaking up, and it's not you. And they're most likely not representing you. And we're seeing a darkness come over our nation. We have the First Amendment. We need to speak up. And when we come back here on The Peak, final segment, I'm going to talk about the cost of silence, and then encourage you even more. We'll be right back.
Jim's rant is titled Just Say Something.
Oh, great.
So it's a little bit more about like local issues. Like, hey, if you see a problem, why are you the problem for pointing it out? Say it anyway.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Okay,
so
perfect.
It should be really in line with this. And 2:10 is the time on it. So you
Okay,
can go a little bit
520,
longer.
I can go to 520.
Yeah, correct.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yep.
Just practice. Welcome back to the Peak News. I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman. You're listening to us on AM 1460 and FM 101.1. The Answer. And I realize that over the course of this show, I'm doing what is an ancient Jewish tradition. It's called kvetching. It's a Yiddish word for complaining. So maybe Jim Miller rants, Chaim Goldman kvetches. You know, it's harder to say. It's got a KV in there. But that's what I'm doing. But you know what? I'm not doing it for the sake of complaining. I'm not. You know, it's a little cathartic to put it out there, but if you don't do something about it, yeah, it's worthless. And so I hope that what this is doing is it's a confirmation to you that there's something that's wrong with the world, and you're sensing it, but you're doubting, and you're wondering, do other people see this? Well, I'll let you know. Yes, Chaim sees it. I'm a watchman. You're a watchman. We're seeing it, and just because all these other people are walking around in a fog, maybe they don't see it. Like maybe they're blinded to it, or maybe their cognitive dissonance of the world being this dark, they just can't deal with it, and so they're deceiving themselves. They're lying to themselves. It really doesn't matter. This is why, you know, there's very few people who end up in this realm of being the watchman. It's okay, but it's necessary. It's so necessary. So what happens when we don't say the quiet stuff out loud? What happens when we're silent? What happens when we don't go out? Well, we talked about this spiral of silence that happened in Nazi Germany and happens in other places, where every time someone is scared to speak up, the cost of speaking up, the price goes up, and eventually no one's willing to pay the cost anymore. And we end up with a society that just allows evil to happen, because it's attributed to Edmund Burke, but it seems like he didn't say it. All that is necessary for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing. It seems more accurate that John Stuart Mill in 1867 said, "Bad men need nothing more to compass their ends than that good men should look on and do nothing." That seems to be the official quote. Maybe we'll find out that's not actually a quote. Everything we think is a quote, it's not actually a quote. Bad men need nothing more to compass their ends then that good men should look on and do nothing. And that's what we're seeing. We're just like walking on by the problem. Like that whole thing about the Good Samaritan, like walking on by. I got somebody, and I'm finding that out. I have the Peak, I have church voter guides. And we want you in the political realm. I was going to promote that, churchvoterguides.org. The ballots, our voter guides with ballot initiatives in them this year, not just candidates, comes out this Sunday, the 13th, churchvoterguide.org, and also truthandliberty.net. They have a voter guide, and others have guides, and you should get educated, and you should vote your values, and really in the political realm, like get educated, but please vote. No, it's not the ultimate thing, but it's something you can do to try to bring, your values and be represented. Don't check out. Don't think that the world is just happening to you. Because what happens is when we give that up, when we're silent, we allow tyranny to come in. We allow the false prophets, who may be doom and gloom like the news and just wanting to freak you out and snap your mind, or they may be the, health, wealth, and prosperity and peace when we should be saying, no, this thing's on fire. Like, it just has to be true, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be cheery, and it doesn't have to be glum. It just has to be true. Now, what is truth, and is there a level of subjectivity to it? Yes, but there are things that are true, and there are other things that aren't. And also to speak up, and I know Jim's going to be talking about that. Just speak, in his rant coming up shortly, in his fetch coming up shortly, that we need to complain, but it needs to be something positive. So in the last minute, I'll just say this, as I've been saying through the program. There's problems in this world. It's not so cheery, and you're seeing it. But are you going to say something and then suggest a solution? And then, even if no one else is willing to implement that solution, will you? Will you? Because there wouldn't be a church voter guides if I hadn't said, yeah, I need to. There wouldn't be this radio show if I hadn't said yes. And there wouldn't be other things in the world that you appreciate from other people and from yourself if at times people had said, you know what, I'm that guy. I don't like this thing, and I'm looking around, and I guess I'm that guy, I'm that gal, I'm that child, I'm that person who needs to step up and say the quiet stuff out loud and then try to lead people, because you probably can't do it on your own. You can start a revolution, you can't sustain it. By being that kind of person who can lead other people into these places where we can actually get something done, whatever realm it happens to be. So folks, please say the quiet stuff out loud. Get involved with Here at the Peak if you want. Get involved somewhere. But for God's sakes, be the change you want to see. I know that's, trite, but it's true. And now here's Jim Miller, just a guy in the Peak Rants.